Ubuntu was founded in 2004 by Canonical. Canonical's back-end comes from billionaire Mark Shuttleworth. It also derives revenue from selling commercial support, assistance to OEMs selling computers with Ubuntu pre-installed, and donations. Canonical has more than 700 employees spread across multiple countries. Linux Mint was founded in 2006 by Clement Lefebvre. Funding comes from donations and partnerships with DuckDuckGo and Compulab, who sell Mintbox systems with Linux Mint pre-installed. Development is carried out by Clem and a community of developers. Ubuntu offer 4 official variants: Ubuntu Desktop, Ubuntu Server, Ubuntu Minimal, and Ubuntu Touch, which is for mobile phones. The desktop and server variants are available in 32 and 64-bit system architectures, as well as ARM. Ubuntu has 2 different desktop types, Unity 7 and Unity 8. Unity 7 is designed for desktop computers, whereas Unity 8 is cross-device, being suitable for mobile, tablet, and desktop. The server and minimal variants don't come with any desktop at all. You can either use them in headless mode with the optional Ubuntu Landscape Management tool, or install a desktop of your choosing. There are several official derivatives of Ubuntu which are supported by Canonical, including a Chinese variant, Kylin, and educational variant, Edubuntu, which both use the Unity 7 desktop. There are also other versions which use different Linux desktops, including Kubuntu, Xubuntu, Ubuntu Budgie, etc. And there are many different unofficial derivatives. Linux Mint comes in 5 different variants: Cinnamon, Mate, XFCE, and KDE, which are based on Ubuntu, as well as Linux Mint Debian Edition, which, as the name states, is based on Debian. All versions are available in 32 and 64-bit system architectures. I am not aware of any Linux distributions which are based on Linux Mint, but if you do know of any, please tell me in the comments. Release cycle. Ubuntu provide a new release once every 6 months, with long-term support releases being released once every 2 years. LTS releases are supported for 5 years, with optional pay-for support to extend further beyond the 5-year point. The interim releases are supported for just 9 months. Ubuntu provide an official upgrade path between interim and LTS releases, with the preference being to keep users on the LTS release cycle. Linux Mint is based on Ubuntu LTS releases, with interim releases following the Ubuntu LTS point releases, which result in a minor version number increase. There is no official upgrade path between major versions of Linux Mint, although the standard system updater will upgrade between minor version releases. Resource usage. Both Cinnamon and Unity work better with a graphics card for hardware rendering of the desktop. However, both will fall back to using software rendering via LLVM pipe from the CPU. When system resources are constrained, it is Unity that suffers badly. In terms of memory usage, Linux Mint with Cinnamon is significantly lower than Ubuntu's Unity desktop. Hardware compatibility. Linux Mint has the edge in hardware compatibility by providing the option to easily install additional proprietary Wi-Fi drivers. Stability. I cannot decide a clear winner here for stability. Ubuntu always seems to suffer regular minor crashes of background applications, where nothing noticeable happens other than the crash dialog box appearing. On the other hand, Linux Mint doesn't seem to get the minor application crashes, but suffers worse under NVIDIA graphics for some users. A look at Google searches for terms Linux Mint crash and Ubuntu crash show results heavily weighted towards Ubuntu. Although what I did notice was 6 of the top 10 Linux Mint crash search results were related to NVIDIA, and that mirrors my experience of it on real hardware. Privacy. Ubuntu has endured the perhaps unfair label of spyware. This was in relation to the old default setting of sending Unity dash searches to Amazon for obtaining product results. The searches were anonymized and sent through Canonical servers prior to being forwarded to Amazon. Comparing to the data leakage of Windows 10, Ubuntu certainly does not deserve the label spyware. Anyway, The online searches are disabled by default as of version 1604. Linux Mint does not carry out any equivalent online searches. Customization. We have a clear winner here with the Cinnamon desktop. It is very flexible with the panel positioning, and you can add a wide range of widgets to the desktop. It has advanced significantly in terms of features over the past couple of years, and is a very close second place in terms of flexibility to the KDE Plasma 5 desktop. In fact, it is so customizable that you can turn it into the Unity desktop, should you so desire. Unity is at the complete opposite end of the spectrum in terms of customization. It is an extremely rigid desktop, having only recently gained the ability to move the launcher from the left-hand side to the bottom of the screen. There is no easy way to add widgets to the desktop. In terms of styling, my previous complaints about theming inconsistencies were partially resolved under Ubuntu 16.10. However, there are still inconsistencies with scroll bar sizes across applications. No such issues are present in Linux Mint. The styling is consistent and well presented throughout the entire system. Parental Controls. There are no pre-installed parental controls with Ubuntu. Linux Mint comes with a domain blocker, so you could prevent DNS lookups to certain websites. However, it is a very crude blocking feature and easy to circumvent, but it may be enough to restrict very young children. HiDPI. Both Linux Mint and Ubuntu offer the option to scale your monitor for high-resolution displays. Let me know if you think either of the desktops has an edge here, because I only have a HD 1080 monitor and my graphics card predates 4K. Choice of applications. Ubuntu based their application repository off Debian testing and then fixed the version numbers during alpha stages of development. A selection of applications and critical components of the system, for example kernel and Xorg, will receive security updates throughout the life of the operating system. Canonical also support installation of snap-based applications, which come supplied with all their dependencies in one snap package. New snaps are added and updated, and have even been backported to versions of Ubuntu that predated the snap feature. It is possible to add third-party repositories to the system, for example Launchpad PPAs. Linux Mint based their repository off Ubuntu, so the choice of packages is effectively the same as Ubuntu. Out of the box, Mint does not have the ability to install snap packages. However, it is easy enough to install snapd, which will allow you the option of installing snaps. Security. Up until this point of the video, Linux Mint has had the edge over Ubuntu, but now it comes crashing down with what in my opinion is the biggest failing of Mint: the way they supply updates. The Mint Update Manager grades applications on a level of 1 to 5 in terms of their ability to cause a negative effect on system stability, with 1 to 3 being safe and 4 and 5 being potentially dangerous. A kernel update is classed as a level 5, potentially dangerous, and is deselected by default. I know experienced users understand the difference here, but my concern is the amateur user, the everyday user who leaves settings as defaults, which will prevent kernel updates. The kernel privilege escalation vulnerability, Dirty Cow, would remain unpatched on Linux Mint for up to 5 years with the default update settings. If Linux Mint are so concerned about keeping the system working, then they should look at building an application that can automatically recognise when an item of hardware is no longer working under a kernel update, and then provide the user with the option of rolling back an update. That would be a far more sensible approach than burying your head in the sand and leaving the kernel open to serious exploits that could cause theft of credentials or loss of data. In conclusion, there is really only one reason I could recommend Linux Mint: if you have hardware compatibility issues under Ubuntu. Beyond that, I would recommend Ubuntu or one of its derivatives. If you like the look and feel of Cinnamon, Mate, KDE or XFCE, then you can get those desktops under a derivative of Ubuntu. At least that way you would be getting all the system updates as soon as they are supplied. If you like my videos, then please consider being a Patreon. and support Quidsup. You can pledge as little as $1 a month or $1,000 a month. But every little bit does help make a difference, and it does help me produce higher quality videos. Well, thanks for watching, and as always, I will see you all later.